Okay, so this mount is off of a mid-80s Chevy truck. Now I've drilled these holes out some, and there was a reason for that. The Chevy trucks, the mounts are the same on both sides, and I think maybe they might be a little bit longer here. The Gbody mounts are, I think one is shorter on one side. I'm not 100% sure on that. Anyways, when I tried to use these truck mounts, I had nothing but problems. So even today, I'm working on how do I get this mount bolted on here correctly and get it to sit in the car correctly to bolt into the factory mounts on the cross member. So what I have figured out is I am using the very furthest forward holes. And these mounts are labeled. This one says passenger side, the other one has a D on it for driver side. Okay, now I didn't know where it was supposed to go. That was just based off of where I wanted it to be at. I put this cylinder head pretty close to the firewall, like really close to the firewall. And I did that because I wanted it as far back as I could get it. And I was using a 4L80E transmission, so I was going to have to make a new cross member anyways for the trans mount. And make a new drive shaft. So I could do whatever I wanted to on that. I could have set it way farther forward. Now, the other problem with that was this oil pan is an LS1 F-body oil pan. So what you get into with that is I've had to notch this cross member quite a bit, and I didn't weld anything back in its place. I'm not too really concerned about it. And you can use a truck pan, and the truck pans are way deeper, so you'll run into ground clearance problems there. I would suggest using the LS1 pan or aftermarket Holly pan or whoever else makes one, right? So that way it stays shallow, but the sump isn't as long front to back. So that pretty well covers the motor mounts. Another thing you'll be fighting with is the actual length of the bolt. And I'm just using what I've got laying around. But you'll notice once you start getting your bolts screwed in, of course I picked one that's hard to deal with. The bolt will actually touch the block once you get it screwed in there so far. So you'll be trying to find shorter bolts or trying to find washers to space it out. But eventually you'll get it. It's not that hard. Alright, I've got my factory Chevy truck mounts on here, and this one doesn't look very good. This one looks like it's twisted the other way. So I'll be fighting with this for a while. One suggestion I would make is just spend the money to buy the correct mount. The LSX plate works really good, and I'll try to put a link to that at the bottom of this video at the description. As far as this part, I would do your best to find the factory Gbody mount or buy an aftermarket deal here that'll bolt on correctly. I'm just struggling with making this work since I've already got it here. Okay, if you've never put an engine in before, the correct motor mount bolts are have a big chamfer on them like that. You can focus. Anyways, so I just stuck it in the hole down there. The starter's off, and the starter is off because I've yet to put the converter bolts in. But I can put the converter bolts in from up top, way up here, with the starter off. Because I do not like climbing underneath this car. I have no reason to climb underneath this car. It sits very low. It's hard to get a jack under it. So I try to make this thing where I can do every single thing up top. I had to jack it up to get a bell housing bolt in. But other than that, it's everything else is up top. Yeah, went in way better than last year. Last year I had to really do a lot of work to these mounts to get them to work, line up. Now the fun begins. Got the first side in. Now the other side won't line up. I'm just trying to use something with a point on it to get in the hole and see if I can help line it up a little better. I may have to hook the hoist back up to it. I took the hoist off because I was working on some other stuff. I may show you that in a minute. I've been hanging turbos and or a turbo and using the hoist to try to figure out what I'm doing. Go to your home. Alright, hoist is hooked up. I raised it up just enough to get the pressure off of the mount. Which way did I go? I went too far. I'm gonna lower it back down just a little bit. It's 14 degrees out here this morning. Lucky enough to find a pair of gloves. Okay, since having so much trouble with the hole on the driver's side, what I've decided to do was get the hole on the driver's side lined up, drive the bolt in it, leave all my trouble for the passenger side since it's easier to work with. The driver's side, I'm working around the power steering pump and the brake booster and brake master cylinder. So I'll leave all them problems over there, and I'll just adjust the mount that's on the passenger side, which I believe that's what I had to do last year on this same mount. Should have just bought the right mounts. Alright, well, the next step in this process is the torque converter bolts. These are ARP. Yeah, ARP. Because I didn't have any. Actually, the ones that I could have used or had are a I don't know what you want to call them. They're a cap screw, not a socket head cap screw, but it uses a Torx bit to get them out. So you gotta use basically you gotta use a hammer and chisel to get them out, because the Torx bit just wants to round them off. Now, I've got good Torx bits. I was using snap-on Torx bits and it just ruins the head of the bolt. So bought these. I don't think they were very much. Pack of 6 of them. The factory converter for the Chevy trucks, the 3/4 tons for the 4L80E, it can use up to 6 bolts. Most people will probably only use 3, but I'm gonna go ahead and use 6. I don't know why. Anyhow, before you go to install these, let me show you this Loctite that I've got. Okay, I rubbed a little bit of this blue Loctite stick on the threads of these bolts, just a little bit, don't take much. The stick is really nice. Started using it, and I think it's all I'll ever use now if I have the choice of buying it. So let me show you the car. Okay, there you can see the 4L80E deep pan, cast aluminum pan. There's the flex plate, and here's where the starter bolts on. There's the crank sensor and the wiring. And so the way I can do the converter bolts, can't get my camera in there, but okay, there's one of the bolt holes right there. So you gotta get that lined up, obviously, with the converter. There we go. Alright, so yeah, once you get that lined up with the converter, I'll start a bolt and I will get it not tight. I will screw it in there as far as I can get it without tightening it up. You want that converter and flex plate to still be separated from each other and still be able to move around just a little bit. And the reason for that is so that way you can still get your other 5 bolts started in the converter. If you tighten up the first one, I guarantee you will not make it all the way around and get all the bolts in. You'll have to loosen it back up. So you get them all started, and then you make another round and you tighten them all up. The crank bolt, I'm just going to turn this with a 1/2-inch ratchet extension, and the crank bolt uses a 24mm socket. Okay, so then I'll start with that. I'll get that taken care of. Okay, you just watched a guy put in 6 converter bolts from the top without getting under the car one time. Now, I'll tighten them up as tight as I can get them with a 1/2-inch ratchet from up top. I think a lot of people, would try to torque them, but no, I'm not doing it. So, who bets I can't get this starter on from up top? Okay, so I had to look at this wiring a little bit. See these 3 wires right here? This purple one was the starter wire, the one actually from the key switch. Well, it doesn't come directly from the key switch. It actually goes to a relay that's hooked to oh, what is that company's name? Anyways, it's aftermarket fuse block relay company for LS swaps. Can't think of it right now. This was the hot wire for it, this red one, and then this big wire is actually the battery cable coming from the back of the car. This is one that I made. Still looks pretty decent. So I'm not going to use the aftermarket relay fuse box and stuff because I wanted to be able to show people how to use the factory ones from the Silverado. Save you a bunch of money. I think that thing that I bought was $200. You don't need it. So these 2 will be pulled back out. This one I'm going to hook up. So here's the deal with the other one. The other battery cable from the factory Silverado runs up to a junction box just off to the side of the alternator, and then it runs over to the fuse box, factory fuse box, and then a little it splits off and then it goes to the battery. Well, I'm gonna do away with with the battery cable end over there later on, but I'm still going to use this factory cable and then this factory starter wire, which looks like is in bad shape, and it is purple. The starter wire is always a heavy gauge wire that is purple, so if you're ever trying to jump on or whatever, that's what you're looking for.
Except that I don't like the way it is because it's hitting this ground. So, the engine is in, the converter is hooked up, bell housing is bolted up, starter's wired. We're taking right off here now. Really, the only things that are left is I gotta drain the fluid out of the transmission because I didn't have a big enough transmission cooler, and I'll cover that later. The converter is a factory converter out of a 99, 2000 truck. It's probably junk. This year I'm gonna run power steering because this thing, you about need 2 men and a gorilla to turn a steering wheel in this car without power steering. This is the hardest car I've ever drove without power steering. But man, I'm just getting wimpy. We gotta wire up this mess. And there's not gonna be a lot involved with that. I think a lot of it's just gonna be a hot wire and a starter wire. It looks like a lot, but a lot of it's gonna go away. I promise. So yeah, not a lot left to go. Gotta do something about fuel lines. And I'll show you how to make it work. But I would hate for you to leave it the way that I'm gonna show you how to do it. Also, I need to repin the transmission connector to to make the 4L60E computer work with this 4L80E transmission. And I did that last year on another harness. It's super simple. Not a big deal.
Oh, I didn't have the turbo set up here. I had it up here earlier. The exhaust manifolds this year, I'm going to flip them upside down and point them forward. I'm not a big fan of that just because it makes it harder to get to the spark plugs and the spark plug wires. Also, if I could move the brake master cylinder back, get rid of the booster and do manual brakes, it's a $180 kit to do it. So I don't know if I will or not. It would allow me to set the turbos back another 6 inches. This side, it's not a big deal. But I also want to put the matching hole in the driver's fender, because that's where the exhaust is coming out. So, let's see. That is a 1/2 inch thick stainless flange. I had some of those made for the truck manifolds. And something else I thought you might be interested in. If you've made it all the way this far through the video, I'll show you something real quick. This is a Shelby GT500 blower flipped upside down. And I thought about putting it over top of the factory intake manifold. Now I had it flipped the right side up yesterday and was trying to figure out how to mount it, but it'll be sticking up so high up in the air. And I'm starting to think that flipping it upside down would be a better option. Anyways, we'll get to that later. Let's see, I don't think there's anything else I wanted to cover today in this video. The main thing is getting your flex plate right, getting the correct bell housing bolts, the motor mounts. For the love of God, please buy the car motor mounts. Do not try to use truck motor mounts. And I'm talking about the steel mount that actually bolts to the block on an old small block Chevy. There is a difference between the car and truck mounts, and I just struggled every time. So do yourself a favor, get the car mounts. I talked to another guy that lives not too far from me. He's doing the same thing on an El Camino or an El Calabre or El Chupacabra or whatever the hell that thing's called. And he said he's got the car mounts and it dropped right in, no problem. So the adapters from that Innovate, LSX Innovations or whatever it's called, they do work. They're fine. Buy them. They're not even that expensive. It's the metal mount that you have to bolt to that is the part that you're going to struggle with. Now, there are a lot of holes in the K-member. I know those were for other engine options, but I don't know what's what. Now, if you can tell on mine, the factory mount here for the 305 was as far forward and up as they could put them, and I'm not sure. I mean, I'm assuming that was the factory location. This steel mount here, this mount bolted to the LSX Innovations plate. I bolted that to the farthest forward as I could get it. So I just want to give you a little overview on that. All in all, I think that's got it for now. I'll probably try covering the wiring next, and the wiring and maybe the fuel, and maybe we'll get this thing to start up here pretty soon. Have a good one.